Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to Utility Sports. I'm so excited to be covering Kyrie Irving free agency rumors in today's video. If you are new to the channel here at Utility Sports, make sure to leave a like on today's video, especially if you do enjoy the content. And then also, please hit that subscribe button. Just takes a second of your time, but would absolutely make my day. So now let's go ahead and jump into the video here. And this all starts with a tweet on some reporting here from Shams Charania. This is what he tweeted. Make sure to go check him out on Twitter. Give him a follow. He's definitely worth a follow on the Twitter. He says, sources, Kyrie Irving and the Nets are at an impasse in conversations about his future in Brooklyn, clearing way for the seven-time All-Star to consider the open market. Lakers and Knicks expected to emerge among potential suitors. So Shams already shared two suitors. I have a third suitor in today's video that we'll talk about. But you have to understand this from the Nets perspective. Kyrie Irving has missed about half the games that he was eligible for since signing with the team, not just last season with the whole vaccine status, but before that even, he missed a ton of time for a bunch of different reasons. Remember when they made the move for James Harden? Kyrie Irving was away from the team for personal reasons. The Nets were in a weird spot with him. Obviously, they love the idea of signing him. They love the idea of bringing him in with Kevin Durant, getting two of the most talented players in the world. Seems like a good idea on paper. And the issue is with Kyrie Irving, you never really know what you're going to get, which is why during my 198 free agents, when I covered every single free agent in the entire league, I said, I don't know what Kyrie Irving's going to do. And I'm glad I said that. I thought he was going to go back to Brooklyn. And 2 days later, here we are recording a Kyrie Irving free agency video because we don't know what this guy's ever going to do. He's going to actually take, meetings now probably. And it absolutely goes crazy in terms of, really showing what the whole situation is here around Kyrie Irving. And it's just unbelievable. So let's go into potential landing spot number one. And I've got Kyrie Irving going to the Los Angeles Lakers. And that's going to be the fun one. A lot of people are going to talk about it, not only because the Lakers dominate the media space, but because of the reunion with LeBron James, which would be a very fun storyline. Even though I don't like the Lakers, I do think Kyrie going to the Lakers would be a lot of fun for a couple of reasons. First of all, seeing him kind of go back on his word, wanting to trade out of Cleveland, leave LeBron, that really shaped a lot of the NBA. Think about the Celtics trade, getting him there, then leaving for Brooklyn. Kind of, forced LeBron out of Cleveland. I'm sure he was going to leave anyway, but had he wanted to stay, maybe Kyrie would have been one of the pulling factors keeping him there in Cleveland. Now we are in a situation where maybe they join each other in Los Angeles and you try and form a big three of Kyrie, Anthony Davis, and LeBron, which is a much better fit in my eyes than Russell Westbrook being that third guy. And then this gets really fun here because it would probably be in a sign and trade package because basically any team that wants to sign Kyrie Irving is not going to have the outright money to do so, which means you're going to have to facilitate a sign and trade with the Brooklyn Nets, which means you're going to need Brooklyn's help here. So you're going to have to send out some players, some assets to get a deal done. But in this, I have the Lakers receiving guard Kyrie Irving, and in return, the Brooklyn Nets would receive guard Russell Westbrook and a couple extra small assets, whether that's that 2027 first-round pick, or maybe a Taylor Horton Tucker gets thrown in there. Just something not super substantial, but still somewhat impactful going from LA to Brooklyn, because I think Brooklyn here is going to say, okay, if you're going to get Kyrie Irving, if we're going to help you try and win a championship, you're going to at least try and send us something that can help us. Russ, I think, can actually help Brooklyn. I think Russ and Kevin Durant are a better fit than everyone, look back at. This team, when they were in Oklahoma City, they made the conference finals a ton. They made it to the NBA finals one year. Russ and KD had a ton of success together. Even if maybe they didn't get to their ultimate goal of winning a championship, those two were very, very good together. And then that extra asset, whether that is a THT or a future first, arms this team up more with some more assets. Remember, they have the 2 firsts from Philadelphia. If they get that extra first from LA, they could go into the marketplace with 3 first-round picks that they would be willing to send out in any deal, even after the James Harden trade, where they, sent all their picks to get Harden. They still have assets to send out the door now at this point. So Brooklyn could still be aggressive and add more talent to this team if they go with the Russell Westbrook option. Obviously, it's going to be dependent on where Kyrie Irving really wants to play, though, because the team's not going to send out assets if Kyrie doesn't want to play there. That's really ultimately what we're going to come down to. So potential landing spot 2, Kyrie Irving, will he consider the New York Knicks? Of course, that was the destined landing spot last time. Remember, they were going to sign both Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, and then they got to see their next door neighbor, the Brooklyn Nets, do it instead. Knicks fans, is it your turn for Kyrie Irving? I have a video on the channel about Jalen Brunson potentially going to the New York Knicks, but I think if Brunson stays in Dallas, maybe the Knicks would love to land Kyrie Irving and pair him with Julius Randle and RJ Barrett. So how do they go about doing that? Well, it's going to take another sign and trade here. And luckily for them, this is a little bit cleaner and easier of a sell point for Knicks fans. You're going to give the Brooklyn Nets Mitchell Robinson, who is an unrestricted free agent. So you're basically trading the rights to him. It would be a dual sign and trade in this instance, kind of what we saw a few years ago when Kemba Walker got signed and traded to the Boston Celtics for Terry Rozier. Those were a dual sign and trade move. This would be just like it. But in addition to Mitchell Robinson, the Knicks would also have to send out Evan Fournier for cash reasons, probably Cam Reddish, because the Nets are going to say, okay, we're not just going to take Fournier's terrible contract and Mitchell Robinson. You have to give us a little bit more. So you take Cam Reddish, who they just gave up a first-round pick for. I know Knicks fans aren't going to love that idea, but I'm sorry, it's going to have to happen. Tom Thibodeau doesn't even like Cam Reddish, so I don't think that the front office would be super hesitant about that. And then you also give up some extra small assets, whether that's a future second-round pick or two, maybe like a 2026 protected first-round pick, something small, but enough to really motivate the Nets to help you get this deal done. Because ultimately, the Nets could say, yeah, we're not going to help anyone with a sign and trade. And then a team's going to either have to cash dump all of their players, which makes it really tough to build a roster, or they're going to say, okay, Kyrie, you can sign with the Orlando Magic or Detroit Pistons. Go right ahead. We'll watch you do it, because they're going to call his bet that he doesn't want to go to one of those teams right now that's in the middle of a rebuild. He probably wants to go somewhere where he could win, looking at, say, again, a New York Knicks. Not sure they're good enough to win, but they'd be at least more competitive than Orlando or, even a Houston at this point, just because of how young those other teams are. So the Knicks, I mean, if they want to get him, they're going to have to give up a package like this. I would be very shocked if it took less than this to get him, specifically considering the money matching element as well. So then we go into landing spot 3, and this is probably my favorite landing spot. It's Los Angeles Clippers, and I think it makes the most sense, honestly, for Kyrie Irving and for the Clippers. I think it makes more sense than the Lakers even, and I think it makes more sense than the Nets, because the Clippers, they've been so close, and the only thing that they've needed this entire time is a true bucket getter, and that's what Kyrie Irving is. And I think with how good the Clippers are and how deep they are, they don't even need Kyrie to be available every single night. They don't need him to be available 75% of the time. If he's available in the postseason alone, that would be enough for this team, as long as they have some chemistry going into it. Say he plays 40 regular season games, I think that would be perfect for the Clippers. I don't think that they need him to play all 80. In fact, I think they'd prefer him to be rested, ready to go in the postseason. And then they've got the dogs around him that they're going to be healthy this year. PG missed a ton of time last year. Kawhi missed every single game last year. So his body's going to be rehabbed, recovered, and rested. And I think they would win the championship if they get a deal done like this. I think they might already without Kyrie. If they're able to pull in Kyrie Irving, I think that their talent level is just so extreme in comparison to everyone else in the league. And they would get Kyrie Irving in this sign and trade. They would send out Marcus Morris and Luke Kennard and a future second-round pick. And this is actually not a bad outcome for Brooklyn either. I want to talk about this. Getting Kennard and Marcus Morris probably solve a lot of the issues that the Brooklyn Nets have. They need size in the backcourt, and they need physical wing defenders. Morris obviously fits the physical wing defender, and Luke Kennard is about 6'5". I know he doesn't play super big, not super strong, but he's just simply taller than what they were throwing out there last year with Seth Curry and Goran Dragic. They need players who are a little bit taller, a little bit bigger. And you could look at this team going into the next season, having a starting lineup of Kevin Durant, Ben Simmons, Marcus Morris, Luke Kennard, and say Nick Claxton. That's not a bad combination of players. And you probably refit your depth a little bit more. You can bring Seth Curry off the bench then. You've got some options coming off the bench, and maybe they go out and use their mid-level exception. They would still have 2 first-round picks. They could go out and shop in the marketplace. And they don't have any money tied up into another third big contract, and instead they go the depth route here, which I think does make some sense. They'd probably try and push to get Ivica Zubac in this deal, which the Clippers would maybe be hesitant on. But at the end of the day, if Kyrie wants to play in LA for the Clippers, he could force his way there, and this would be what the package we see coming back in some type of deal. The money here is close enough that depending on what Kyrie Irving signs, a couple extra small players in there, maybe a Jason Preston or a Jaden Scrub, or potentially you could even look at a Brandon Boston, which I think Brooklyn would love to get any of those guys. They'd probably love to get all of those guys. So there's some options here for both sides, but I think Kyrie to LA, playing for the Clippers, not the Lakers, is the best ideal situation for him and for the team acquiring him. And overall, my thoughts on the Nets here, this might not end up being that bad for them. I know right now it seems like, oh, Kyrie Irving's going to jet on them. He's got all the free agency power. He's got the leverage. He's going to make the decision here, and Brooklyn's getting left in the dust. I don't think so. I don't see it that same way. Kyrie Irving, I think landing with the Clippers is good for him. But outside of the Clippers, the Clippers are a very stable franchise now at this point, with Jerry West there calling the shots, and with Steve Ballmer as the owner, Lawrence Frank in an executive role. They're very stable. They could withhold a guy like Kyrie Irving, who tends to make things a little less stable. The Brooklyn Nets have not been stable for the last 24 months, realistically. And maybe even since signing Kyrie Irving, they haven't been stable. Think about all the time that he's missed. They need stability there. And Kyrie Irving going out the door, bringing some role players around Kevin Durant that fit this roster, fit this team, might not be a bad outcome. I think people are going to underrate Marcus Morris's scoring output. Remember, just a few years ago, he was putting up 20 points a game with the New York Knicks when he was the guy. Now, I think he's not going to do that in Brooklyn, but say they got him, he could probably score 15 points a night. And you add that to Ben Simmons, his 13 to 14 points a night. Kevin Durant's going to score his 25. Seth Curry's going to give you 10 or 12 off the bench. Kennard can give you 10 to 15. You've got enough scoring there still and improved defense that the Nets would be probably better than they were this past year, which I would hope so. I mean, they got swept in the first round of the playoffs, so there's not really a lot of room to go downward when you have Kevin Durant on your roster. You're going to make the playoffs. It's just going to be a question about how good you can be in the postseason, and having more stability might just be what this team needs there in Brooklyn. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you did enjoy today's video. A lot of fun to record. I was not expecting a Kyrie Irving free agency rumors video today, but I'm excited I could bring it to you. If you did enjoy, leave a like, subscribe to the channel for more. And in the comment section, go ahead and comment where you think Kyrie Irving will play next season, whether that's the Lakers, the Knicks, the Clippers, maybe a team I didn't mention today in today's video. Could the Chicago Bulls get involved? Could we see the Dallas Mavericks? Maybe the Miami Heat? There are some options out there. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Thanks again so much for watching, guys, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.